How's it going, everybody? Can you hear me fine? Everything's cool? I'm not blowing anybody's heads off. Great. So, welcome to It's a Pythonic Day in the Neighborhood, collecting data from Twitch TV using Python, and it centralizes around a channel that was Mr. Rogers' live stream, which we'll get into in a minute. But I'm a developer from Austin, Texas. I work at the University of Texas in computational engineering and sciences. And so who here is familiar already with Twitch TV? Okay, a lot of you. So, for the very few of you in here who don't know, that's okay. It's a social live streaming platform with around 15 million, give or take, active daily users. And the trick with it is people really enjoy watching others who are highly skilled or extremely entertaining when it involves a shared interest. Hence, like, we're kind of all at PyCon because we're all into Python or some sort of programming, and it's interesting to us. Well, same goes for video games, creative, people live streaming painting, things like that, music, in real life streams to actually hang out with somebody during their daily life, and special events, which we'll talk about in a minute. So this is what Twitch TV looks like. This is actually the video stream. So if it's a television show, the video is played there. This is the chat, which is important in the talk because it is based on IRC, Internet Relay Chat. I won't get into that. We'll get into it just a tiny bit. But you should definitely, if you're a new developer, look at IRC. It's actually really easy to get started with IRC, and if you're a veteran, I'm sure you know what it is, and it's actually easy to extend to IRCs. So the story. So like many of you, I'm a developer, and I'm always looking for projects, always looking for data, ways to get data. I don't always know what to do with the data, which is kind of part of this talk, is you need to sort of have an idea when you go to collect data. You should have some sort of idea of what you're going to do with it. But I sort of figured it out, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. So Twitch TV occasionally has special events, one being a live stream of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. How many people know of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? Cool. Almost everybody, great. So if you don't know, it's an amazing television show, and you're missing out on a huge part of fun in life. It's even more fun to watch as an adult now, and especially with something like Twitch TV where there's a chat, it's pretty hilarious. So why Mr. Rogers? Like I said, it's an 886 episode stream over 18 days, and that means tons of data. The data that I was more concerned with was actually chat data. As much as I love Twitch TV, the chat for Twitch TV is pretty notoriously interesting. It was to the point where I was trying to find slides and images, and I couldn't find anything that couldn't be. It may have been potentially offensive. It was definitely offensive. I'm here staying with a friend, and we were looking at things, and it was just so bad. So I found a couple. So bear with me. If you see anything, just please ignore it. So my goal is that much of streamer success on Twitch is this interaction that happens in the chat. So it's great to watch somebody play your favorite game. It's fun to watch them. But that one streamer can't really interact with everybody in the chat because there's thousands of people, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people in the chat. So the chat then breaks off into conversations between people. And that's what's really interesting. So, but with anonymous online interaction at mass scale comes one major problem: the trolls, which everybody has been saying. But I'm not looking for the obvious trolls that will get banned right away. I'm actually targeting what I call special trolls. The special trolls tend to be people in the chat who may be just using really annoying language, but it's not bannable. They're not really offending anybody. They're sending tons of emotes when it's just so unnecessary. These trolls, special trolls, end up being like some of the highest paying subscribers to channels, so you don't just, as a streamer, you don't just want to ban these people. But it's also hard to deal with them, so I thought it would be interesting to try to figure out a way to sort of pivot their behavior. So how I use the data. So I don't have enough time to really go through it all, but in short, I went into our IRC, and using Python, I would print the username, text, and a timestamp of all the messages. So essentially, it was a log of everything that's been said during the chat, which gets big fast on these types of streams. So I would create keyword and phrase lists, and I'll get into packages that I used later for that. Identified problem users for further action. Logged specific sessions and kind of saved them as a history and sent them to moderators. Moderators are people who have higher privileges than others in the chat and can have the ability to ban people and things like that. What I did was send personalized questions and conversational pivots to really specific users who were causing problems, who were just so off topic that we kind of needed to move things along. And this would kind of derail them in the inappropriate or repetitive chat, but not bannable chat. So here's a just quick example. A user named Bad Troll. Bad troll is just posting spam, just posting things that are so irrelevant and really annoying, and we don't want to kick them from the chat, but we kind of want to pivot them. So I have a bot that's now actually automated through natural language processing that basically creates a sentence that looks like pretty close to what a human would say to someone. And it looks through the history, and if they were talking about a new Rainbow Six map earlier on in the day, because they're not bad people, they also have good conversation, we just want to get them back to good conversation. So this could come up in Twitch. It shows like, hey, you have a message in the chat. It usually comes up as a black bar around your name, so it's easy to see. You know, what were you talking about when you mentioned this topic earlier on? And we know that through the data they did talk about that. In the hopes, and of course it's not going to work every time, but in hopes, basically it will steer them into, oh yeah, let me tell everybody about this again. We knew that they're kind of an active user. They like to talk a lot. So this steers them back in that direction and away from anything annoying that they were saying. So the outcome in the release of this code, since I'm not going to go over all the code here today, so the outcome was 4 out of 7 targeted users on average were successfully pivoted. So I was able to get in and actually completely change the conversation, which was good. Now, how fast they regress back to where they were, that's dependent on what's going on in the people. But it was interesting enough to kind of get the conversation going on to something else and get them away from spamming things. An 87% response rate for any messages that I used the automation bot with the natural language to build the sentence. 87% of people actually responded to that, which had me believe that maybe they didn't realize that it was not a human asking those questions. There's drawbacks to this. This is sort of just a starting point of what you can do, because if people start seeing that the same name, you don't name it a bot, you name it like a real username. But if you start seeing that name come up and only asking people questions, and this is out there, people will start knowing. So it's a way of kind of just starting the conversation of how to not ban people, but kind of just change conversations. So here's 5 easy steps to get you started. I'll go through pretty quickly. You want to create a Twitch account. You can do it by going to dev.twitch.tv. You're going to create and register an app with Twitch. They make it really easy on their website. And that will give you your username, your client ID, your token, and then for the channel parameter, you will use whatever channel you want to join. And with these bots, you can have as many bots basically going as you want as of right now. I'm hoping someone from Twitch doesn't end up watching this later and is like, no, we're not going to let you do that. So I had hundreds of bots in different channels every day, all collecting data, so then I had a huge data sample to work with. So that's a really nice thing. Of course, this could also be used for bad things, so please, as developers, you have a responsibility. You have to be really careful with sending messages to users. Be very careful that you close your loops, because all of a sudden you could instantly get banned if you just sent 1,000 messages and people then know what's going on. So be careful with that. The number 5 line is actually how you would just run the script for those who are not really familiar with shell or anything like that. Let's take a quick look at the starter file that is actually given to you by Twitch. So they provide this file. It's not scary. We're not going to go through the whole thing. You just need to install IRC and requests to be able to use this correctly. And what it does, it's basically creating a WebSocket. And it's giving parameters for the API. It's, you can see here for the create IRC bot connection, it gives the server, it gives the port number. And you specify your own account information when you run this script. There's other ways to automate it. You can have a separate settings file and then change this code to actually call in the settings, so it's calling in your username, channel parameters, and things like that. And then, let's see, you can pull APIs from just this file that they give you. But the trick here is in this function, this main function area. This is where you'll be able to extend it, and if you know Python, even a little bit of Python, or you can look online, there's a lot you can do. So for example, I wrote kind of a custom environment for a socket, so I didn't use that code that I just showed you, but something you can do is your for loops can basically, for any message that comes in, you can see I don't have anything as a parameter between the quotes. Any message that comes in, open this file, append to that file so you get the data going. If you stop, if for some reason it breaks, you can just keep appending to that same file. I was writing the username, the message, the string time, so that's like time and date stamp, and then a new line. And then the data would actually print like this. So the username, Rick Sanchez, Python is so awesome for the message, and then the timestamp, which helps for querying later on. Libraries and packages if you guys want to build bots and make things really interesting. Selenium is great because there's a lot of things that Twitch may not offer through their API, but maybe it's on a web page somewhere. Maybe you can get user data through querying the website for user information. Use Selenium. Selenium's great. Beautiful Soup is also really great for parsing HTML. Works really well with Selenium. NumPy for anything math related. Arrow's great for date and time handling. I'll let you look that up on your own. And its own 3-hour talk would be me covering the very, very top layer of NLTK, which is Natural Language Toolkit, so natural language processing. So once I do release the code, probably in January, I'm going to have a really good documentation to kind of guide you through exactly how I'm using that, because it's just massive. And also, if you ever see anybody using APIs, any company, and they have Python, they have JavaScript, they're trying to cover all these languages, it's important as Python developers to keep using Python for those things, even if they have more documentation in JavaScript. And as a developer of an API, they're not really sure what people are going to be using, so it's important that we are using Python or whatever language that you're most comfortable with so that those developers or whoever's responsible for the API can keep developing for those types of users, or else they don't know. And thanks so much. Merci. I like Montreal. It's been great. Thank you.